after the conclusion, obviously not the conclusion for the Hunt family, who will never get over the loss that they've experienced, but the conclusion in terms of the criminal justice system. He's still to be sentenced, isn't he, Kyle Clifford? So not quite the conclusion, but almost the conclusion of the criminal justice process relating to him. The very fact that minutes after that case was finished, we were hearing terms like jilted lover, spurned lover, dented pride. It worries me. And it worries me because I get what the police officer in question was alluding to. But we have to stop, through the language we use and the assumptions that we make, aided by the language that we use, we have to stop minimising the violence of men, the strangeness, dangerous strangeness of some men when their relationships come to an end because of a decision an adult woman has made about the relationship she's in. That should be the end of it. And I'm not saying that, the end of relationships can be messy. They can involve people saying, please, let's have a conversation. I get that. We're not robots. But you know the difference between that. You know, I've had relationships that ended. One in particular I can think of in my late 20s that ended. And we both probably urged the other to meet for a conversation. And, that's not stalking or harassment. It's when there's a pattern to it and you have made very clear you don't want someone to be near you or with you, then it becomes the beginnings of that risk. It might dissipate, it might not. But what should never happen, in my view, having learned a lot since then and since making the podcast on stalking, we should never, ever underestimate it, and certainly not soften it with our descriptions. I don't care if your pride is dented. I'm sorry your pride is dented. I'm sorry you feel bad that this relationship is over. I feel bad that this relationship is over because I'm exhausted by your behaviour, that kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? It's clearly what Louise made clear to her family, that she felt, to quote Louise, she felt it was sucking the life out of her. That's not a relationship anyone should stay in. It's not what they're for. And his response, high speed, by the way. There was no long period of stalking going. Without doubt, he was stalking. He even got the armoury of a stalker, didn't he? Of a literal, the original term stalker, and went and got a crossbow, for God's sake. The Hunt family and Louise in particular didn't have time to see it coming almost. How could you imagine it would escalate to that so quickly? But that's why I think we need, and I don't want to be a doom and gloomster, but it's why we have to be much more critical of and punitive of, punishing of this kind of behaviour, however early on in the process it is. If I say, do not contact me, and you contact me, I hate to break it to you, you're already committing a crime of harassment. If there is a pattern formed, and it doesn't take much to form a pattern, if there is a pattern formed that you seek me out or try to discomfort me in one way or another, it can be very serious, can be less serious, but it's all serious, you're committing a crime. And too often at that very early stage, we excuse the crime. We excuse the crime in a million ways. Oh, they're just some loon who listens to the programme. Oh, he's just that guy I used to go out with. Oh, he's just that person I had an argument with in the shop. Oh, he's just, he's a jilted lover. He's a bit lovelorn. His pride's been dented. Da, 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 da. No. We know the patterns. We know them. We need to make them more broadly known, but we know the patterns. On stalking, for example, Kyle Clifford falls into two of the stalking categories: rejected stalker and predatory stalker. And the two most lethal types of stalker are those two. The other types typically don't end in violence or death. They can, but they don't typically, whereas the predatory stalker always does. Rejected stalker can do, and often does. Language like, I'll kill myself, typically means I'll kill you. and turns out to be, I'll kill you. So there are things we know, and police officers know, and should know better and should know more of. I had a call yesterday off the back of a conversation we had on International Women's Day about stalking. I had a call from a friend of mine. She's a lot younger than me. She's in her 30s probably. Yeah, she's in her 30s, colleague of mine. And a friend of hers is, without doubt, because she gave me the detail yesterday, a friend of hers is being stalked. And the woman being stalked has been loath to say that that's what's happening to her. She didn't think that's what was happening to her. It clearly is, like, to quite an extreme degree. I won't share the details because they're not mine to share, but to an extreme degree. There's nothing soft around the edges about what's happening to this woman. And she has been told by the police that there's nothing they can do. Not true. There is a lot they can do. She knows this man. She can identify this man. She has his telephone number. And because he is making counter allegations against her, the police go, well, your word, his word. No, investigate it. Check him out. And I guarantee you he'll have done it before. So there is a lot more police need to do, and they need to be more proactive. Sometimes they're brilliant. Sometimes they're very much not brilliant. But I think as a society, we really have to put down this idea that there is some kind of societal softball explanation for violent stalking, predatory stalking, killing, harassment. There isn't. They're all very serious crimes indeed.